Hello, and got a little reconnection issue there. Happy New Year. It is the very first Monday of 2026, a brand new year. This is my first time going live this year, and I have a brand new series that I'm starting, and I am calling it the ABCs of Art. And I think that it's going to be a fun series. It's actually going to last the entire year. If you were here watching last year in 2025, I used this journal for the entire year, and I did words of the week. And each week I did something a little creative, and I also had like the definition, the word, the colors that might be associated with it, and some things. And it was a lot of fun each week just to do something a little creative every day, or every week. And this was one of my favorites here, of the flowers and the watercolor. And it really made me start thinking about, why was that enjoyable? Like, why did I really like that? And it was because of the consistency of doing something creative. And when I started thinking about, oh, I just found some pink paint that I was looking for. Let me take a drink of water. When I started thinking about what I wanted to do for this year, I started thinking about some of the things that I've done over the past couple of weeks. One of which, if you watched last week, was creating my artwork for my words of the year. And I put them in these, I'm pretty sure they were from the Dollar Tree, these Dollar Tree frames. And I have them sitting over here in my studio so that I can look at them all the time. I did the word rise on the video last week, so if you wanted to see how I blended those colors, you can always watch my replays of my videos here on YouTube. If you are not subscribed over to my YouTube channel, which I know a lot of you are not, because I have a lot less subscribers over on YouTube than I do on my Facebook page. So if you're not subscribing, that is the best way to be able to watch the replays of my videos. And they're all kind of in order. There will be a playlist specifically for the ABCs of Art series that I'm going to do the entire year. I have 2 sets of ABC words, the entire alphabet. I'm going to go through twice, 2 different sets of words, and I think that it's going to be a lot of fun. I will show you the journal that I'm going to use for this year, but I wanted to show you this one here. It's backwards, obviously, but it's the word refresh. Hi, Lori. Hi, Kathy. And this was a really simple kind of background where I did this yellowish green. It's actually like a neon green and yellow and some blue in there. And then these letters are just like some scrapbook letters. I showed on the video last week how I have a lot of those. You can go back and see if you're a scrapbooker or were a scrapbooker. I think that that's a word. I have a lot of those from Creative Memories, which is the company that I use a lot of, all different sizes, different kinds. So these were some of those letters, and I actually painted the letters. They were, it's really hard to tell in this photo, but they were camouflage, which I would not use. So I kind of painted them and went around, and I loved how they turned out like very different, right? So I have those sitting in my studio here so that I can see those. The other couple of things that I've been doing the past couple of weeks is kind of coming up with goals for myself. Challenges really is what I would call them. So one of them is this ABCs of Art. I would love to know what A word you think I'm going to do today. Any guesses? What A word am I going to do today? I see my mom popping on this, Judy Ross, if you want to say hi to my mom. Hi, Marion. You are early today. Marion's over on the West Coast, so it's a little early for you. So thanks for popping on live so early in the morning. So one of the challenges that a creative challenge. Tell me if you set a creative goal. These are really more challenges for me. But for the month of January, I wanted to do a journal where I was doing words and focusing on certain words. And inside of my Art Journaling 101 group, that's where we've been sharing those. You can find the list of, I think there's like 50 words on there. And I have a journal dedicated to that. So I've been pretty consistent so far. This is day 5, right? So this was my day 1. This was my day 2 that took a lot longer than I thought because it's a flap. So really it's 2 pages, but yeah, that's day 2. And then my, well, maybe I've only done 3. Maybe I am a day behind. And then there is the one that I just did last night, my day 3 there. And, oh yeah, maybe I am a day behind on that one because I didn't get the journal until a little bit later. So that is one of my challenges. I'm going to create in that journal every day a little something having to do with a particular word. Any A words that you think that I'm going to do today? What A word do you think I'm going to do? The other challenge that I have given to myself that I'm going to do all year, every day, all year, is a portrait. I told one of my friends, Laura, this the other day, and the look on her face, I knew that it was going to be a challenge just by the look on her face. A portrait? A portrait every single day of the year. And what I decided to use was a recycled planner that I have because there's already words on there. There's already something on the page. And right away, that takes away a little bit of the fear of the white page. So I did this one, day 1. You might be able to tell is Dolly Parton. I was looking at a photo, but I used some collage paper in the back and all kinds of mixed media. That one took way longer than I thought that it would. And then for day 2, I used all paint, I believe. So that was that one. The proportions are a little bit off, which is one of the things that I knew that I was going to be able to improve as I did this portrait a day. A portrait every single day. Then I had, the next page was all black. And I knew that I didn't want it black. I could have kept it black and just used like white media. That could have been pretty cool. So if there's another black page, then I will maybe do something like that. But I had extra paint just over the few days. And so I kept putting paint on this black page. So it already had paint on there. So then basically what I did was a black line. Oh, I see abstract is one of the words. That is a good guess there, Kathy. One of the things that I had not done in a long time was a contour line drawing. Let me know if you know about a contour line drawing. That could be letter C for contour. But it is using some kind of media. I decided to use a Stabilo, one of my favorite mixed media tools. And I looked at a photo of Mel Robbins. And I had listened to a training of her that day, and she just kind of stuck in my mind. And I used the Stabilo, and she has like a large forehead. I don't know that her forehead is really that large, but I was kind of like working on proportions, and I did all of these just freehand. And I did, you can kind of tell the lines around her mouth there are pretty pronounced because I wasn't lifting up my pencil. And then last night I stayed up late and I did, again from a photo and lots of different mixed media. I did this one, which I just posted earlier, some close-ups of her eyes and some of the things on there. And I really ended up liking this one quite a lot. I freehanded it, drew it on there, and just used a lot of different media. And I felt like the proportions were better. I felt like I got a pretty good likeness of her nose. And you can see the original photo that I used, the reference photo, if you look at the post that I made with this one just this morning. So you can go back to my page. So those are two of the challenges that I've given to myself. One for the month of January, one all year long. I would love to know if you've given yourself any challenges. Have you said, I'm going to create every day? Or have you been very specific, I'm going to create a portrait every day, like I did? Are you going to, do something in a journal? Or is it more specific, I'm going to base the journal on a word every day, like I'm doing in the Art Journaling 101 group? I would definitely encourage you to be more specific. I'm going to spend 10 minutes every day making a mark in my journal. And over the process of whether you do that for 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, you will see improvement. You will see where your skills are getting better. You'll see where you're able to create quicker because you've got these ideas and you show up to be creative. So for today, I am going to use this watercolor book. It is 30 sheets in there, so that would mean that I would be able to do 60 days, so it will only last about 52 weeks if I'm just doing, so if I do one a week in there, so this will last for the entire year. Linda says she's drawing something every day and posting it to keep her accountable. Way to go, Linda. That really is. I think that I've posted, at least in my stories, every day of what I'm creating, but that is a great way to hold yourself accountable, especially if people that follow you and see your post expect that. They'll come back and look at that, and that's a great way to oh, Kathy, dogs, I saw where you said, I think that would be fun, draw a dog, create a dog every day in your journal. I think that would be so much fun. So this watercolor journal is 140-pound weight. It will accept just about anything. I have used this journal before, and I love that it's already watercolor paper. This, I believe, is in my Amazon shop. So if you wanted to go get a similar journal, it's a 5.5 by 8.5, so I like the size of it. And the brand name is US Art Supply. And so I'm sure you could go to their website too. So for today, day 1 in my journal, for the A word, I am actually going to do the word art. I know that's really, really creative, right? And I found these 2 books that I wanted to show to you. And this one isn't necessarily an art book, but it is a visual dictionary. And it has all kinds of just pictures of things. Let me see if I can find something. Oh, even where did this one go? Even this shows a face. So if I wanted to look at this and be able to see the proportions and everything and be able to, this is a good visual dictionary to be able to have to create. I also found this book, which I have not opened up in a long time, and it is called, look how big this is, it's called The Joy of Art. And I'm just going to show you a couple of pages because it's such a big book, and I just love it. It looks like someone's sketchbook, kind of. So it has actually written instead of typed in there, and it has, the pictures of the brushes and just a lot of fun graphics, and it's all about the joy of art, which is a lot of the supplies and things like that. So I'm going to put that over there without. So I'm going to work in this book, and I think since I have enough pages, I'm going to leave this first page blank to be able to do like, what do they call it at the beginning of table of contents? Like a table of contents at the beginning. I'm going to do A through Z, and then I'm going to start over again and do a second set of A through Z, and I will have all of these in here. You know, one of the other things that I was just thinking about ABCs, and, you know, I mentioned scrapbooking earlier, and I remember making an ABC book for my youngest son and finding all the things that started with A, all the things that started with B. And, you know, as he was learning his alphabet and things, we would go through that book. And so I just thought about that. I haven't gotten that out in a long time. So I have some supplies here that I'm going to create and talk about art for the very first word. I know Kathy said she could have guessed that, but she didn't. What's your definition of art? I'm not going to put the definition on the pages like I did last year. I'm just going to kind of talk through, but I would love to know, what is your definition of art? And as you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and kind of get started. I have some paints. These all happen to be the neon colors because I just like those. I have some paintbrushes. I have my little bowl of Stabilo pencils, and I will show you a little bit with those. And then I have my entire tub of gel sticks, mixed media sticks. And with those three things, that was what I created that portrait with the red hair with. Were basically these supplies. I also have some scraps that I have been collecting. So I just have some different like little scraps and some pieces of paper, and I think I might use some of those. So I have a glue stick, and I have like my brushes, scissors, you know, just kind of like basic. So those are the things that I'm going to use. So Kathy says that art is just creating. That's like simple. I love that. Linda says art to me is anything that is created: music, dance, drawing, painting, any of the fine arts, they consider them. So I wrote down Lori says to create anything you love, there are many different forms of art. Okay. So here was just a simple definition that I found. It says it's the expression of a human creative skill. The expression of a human creative skill. And that's kind of a short version, but the expression. So that's like Lori was saying, there's so many different ways to create. Linda was, you know, listed some of them there. There's so many different ways. So if you created a new recipe, right? If you put, that's being creative, that's creating something, right? The human creative skill part is where more of the art, you know, the fine art kind of things come in the categories that you guys were talking about there. And what I want to pull out there is the skill. I think to create, that is creating a recipe, it's creating something new, it's creating, you know, anything, creating anything. When you're talking about art, because it's the expression of a human creative skill, that's where I feel like sometimes we create, but we don't know if it's good. We don't know if it is acceptable to post. We don't know if we can even call it art. We don't know if we can call ourselves an artist. And that's where I feel like the skill to create comes in. And the skill of art. And when we know inside, intuitively, kind of, even if we can't name it, even if we can't describe it, we know what is pleasing. And I'm going to give you actually a second A word. And I'm going to go ahead and start creating a little bit here as I'm talking to you about all of these different aspects of art. So this is turn the right direction. Yep. So I'm going to work on this side because I am going to do both sides of the paper. And I think what I'm going to start with is collage. So I have some scraps and I have actually some washi tape. So the word art means that there is some skill. And I feel like that's what most of us want to learn more about, is the skill of art, right? That's why we watch tutorials. That's why we, save pictures. Oh, I think my camera there adjusted. That's why we, are just constantly like trying new things and looking on Pinterest at ideas, right? Ooh, I like how some of that is flaking off there. So I had this washi tape that I used for something else, and I just thought, well, I like the musical notes. Now that I'm thinking about it, I would have liked to put them this way. So maybe I'll put some of these now going the other direction. But one of the things that I've really wanted to do, I loved doing the words of the week last year, but this year what I wanted to do is a little bit more of the skill of art. And obviously what I'm doing here, just gluing down some things, does not take any skill. But as I create, as I put more on here, I'm going to have to start noticing and being more intentional about what I do. And that is where I feel like some people have a more natural ability to create something that is pleasing. And the other A word that I wanted to talk to you about is aesthetics. Have you ever heard of the word aesthetics? Because I feel like aesthetics, which I'll give you the definition of here in a second, that's really where it is kind of up to the person. But I think that there are some rules. I think that there are some principles. So aesthetics is the principles for the appreciation of beauty. And beauty, as we know, is in the eye of the beholder, right? Ooh, I like some of those little pieces there. Oh, I have one more piece of this washi tape. I just had it stuck down over here on my table. I figured that I would use it at some point. So aesthetics is the principles for the appreciation of beauty. It's using the principles, and it is, what we decide is beautiful. But I do think there are some rules in art that are missing. Like we know somehow that it's missing, but we don't know exactly what it is. So my goal during this year is to try to teach you some things about what might be missing from your artwork for it to be beautiful. And these art words, these ABCs of art, I'm hoping will just teach you some new things about what is aesthetic, what is pleasing, what is beautiful to you, and how do you have it come all together. So just these pieces on here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 6 different pieces, and normally what I like to have are odd numbers. So, but this little piece right here, intuitively, I just put that down. And then did you hear me say, well, I wish that I would have put them in lines like this. And, I did that over the top. When I'm initially looking at this, if I did not have this piece going diagonally in here, these would have all felt very separate. But because I have this line going through here, it brings it all together. It connects it. It like unifies all of it. So I want you to be thinking about that when you're creating, that if you just put something here, something here, something here, even if you have odd numbers, which is usually more pleasing to the eye to look at, it's going to feel disconnected. It's going to feel separate. It's going to feel everything's kind of unrelated. But because I have this diagonal in here, that starts to bring it all together. I think that a lot of times after I do collage, I will go in with some paint, which I think that that's actually what I'm going to do. And some of my favorites right now are these neon paints. And I think I'm going to use these two here because the red is a little too bright for me, like too intense, too vibrant. So I want to add a little bit of paint, and sometimes I just like to kind of just squirt it right down on. And then this one is peach, actually punch, but it's like a light pink. And I kind of like these two colors together because this is much lighter and it'll be a nice contrast between these two. So what I'm going to do, I like to use this behind. Let me put this behind here. Now, if this is your very first time showing up, hi, my name's Jamie, and I love mixed media. I love being able to use a lot of different things and playing with different textures. This is going to be way more paint probably than I want. So I'm kind of going over some of the red, and I like how it's going into the musical notes. But one of the things that I love about this paper is the texture. It has like a rough texture. So I like being able to kind of pick up some of that. See like some of that texture in there. And I do believe the peach color is a little bit less transparent. Like it's going to cover up more of the red, which is what I want. So I kind of wanted to put this down first. This is probably like my favorite pink color, this neon color. So I'm getting this pink in here, and then I'm going to go over with that peach color. I'm leaving some of the white because I know that that's where this peachy color is going to go. And I'm not even going to wash off my brush. And what I like to do is, see, it's kind of covering up that red a little bit more. I just kind of like to keep it like really loose and kind of spread that other color around. Oh yeah, I really like how it's covering up more of that. Now you may be looking at this thinking, what in the world is she doing? I'm just having fun. Sometimes for me, just the act of creating is just trying something, getting something on the page. I may completely cover this up. For me, the process of creating, if we're talking about art, is really more about me learning like what goes together, what happens when I mix different colors together. I knew from using this peach color that it was not as transparent as the what is this one's called, sizzling pink. I knew that it wasn't as transparent. Now, if I look here, I notice there's not really too much of that peach color up here, there's a big piece of the pink here, and I need a little bit more right there. So I'm kind of looking at it already, adjusting for the principles of art. And if you were watching last year, I did kind of talk about the principles of art a little bit. And those are the rules. Those are the rules of art, and what is pleasing to us, and what does make sense, and what does work together. And if you have not, I spent a lot of years, taking classes, getting my degrees, and that is what we learned about, is the principles and elements of design. Now, if you haven't, and if you don't plan on ever going to school, probably what you do then is to tune in to somebody that has, and maybe that's one of the reasons why you're watching, is because you know that I do have a degree in art education, so actually teaching, and I took a lot of the classes that other people took. I already am really liking this because of the pink and then the peach, and then just these little bits of red that are kind of coming through, but I toned them down quite a bit. Really, once I have this on here, I'm pretty happy with like the whole process, but I am going to do a focal point of something to draw your eye to a specific place. And when I'm kind of looking at this, I'm going to take this off of here. Where does your eye go to first? If I hold that up, where does your eye go to first? Where is the first place that you kind of stop? Where your eye is maybe leading you to? Do you have a spot where your eye is going to? Now, this is a whole nother principle of art too, is setting up a composition. I talked a little bit about that in one of the episodes last year, but there are certain places that are the best area to put your focal point. Again, that's kind of another rule of art. Yes, Kathy, definitely learn by doing. Yes, like exclamation point on that. Yes. When I look at this, again, this diagonal, yeah, Linda says that diagonal from the left and going down there, that's where my eye kind of follows to. And in particular, kind of this area, like right in here, which fits with, if you were to kind of draw a grid across this, which, it kind of already has the lines on there, any place where the lines overlap, where they cross, that's an area where you could put a focal point. So if you put like a tic-tac-toe board, right? Kind of, so those points which this ends up being one of those points, and it's already kind of set up for there. Those are the kinds of things that I want you to think about when you're creating. So you're doing it intentionally. You're doing it with the rules, the principles that guide how we know when things are beautiful and set up well, and if something's just like right in the middle, that's not really that interesting. It's not as it's just not as interesting for us to be able to look at if it's like right in the center. But if it's kind of like in one of the overlapping places on a grid, it's more interesting. Now, this little corner right here, I don't have necessarily something picked out for a focal point, but I know that it's going to be right in there. And I'm kind of like looking around on my table to see if I have anything right off that I might be able to use for some, and I keep kind of doing a circle. I feel like, a circle in there would complement these straight lines really well. So I feel like it's kind of a circle in that area right there, but I don't have anything right off. I'm kind of looking I think something like that would probably be maybe a little bit too big. I've started saving all of these like tags from things. Ooh, I think that one might work in there. And I think that might work. And I was like looking around at everything, but I've started saving these little tags, and so I just kind of have them over there. So anytime that I have like some extra, things to collage, or I can paint over top, usually they're collage, and then I can make these into little focal points or something on there. So I have some extra scraps of paper, and I think that's what I'm going to do is glue some of this on here. And I like to have ripped edges of paper, so I'm going to do that on here. And glue these down. Anyway, the series, ABCs of Art, I will have a different word each week and some kind of, just fun, creative idea. This wasn't anything that I had, in mind ahead of time. So I'm going to cover up this tag with these pieces of paper, and I would love for you to come back every week. If you would like a text message, a reminder for when I'm going live, you can look on the event that I've created for the ABCs of Art series, and the number, the link to have the number to be able to get a text is on there. So if you're on that, you should have gotten a text this morning. I like how it's picking up some paint from somewhere. Must be on this tray here, or on this cutting board that I have. And if you would like a little bit more help in, these goals that I was talking about, like these creative goals that I have, if you would like some help with that, I do have a vision board masterclass coming up next Tuesday, and I'll be creating an event for that. And I'm going to be going through the framework that I have developed to come up with your goals for the year, and to put them onto a vision board as a reminder that you can see every day for those goals. So I'll put that over. I like to have kind of some different size pieces when I'm doing this. So that's why I'm kind of like ripping some on here. So this is going to be my focal point. I'm going to add some color to this and probably a word. I don't know. I kind of like to have words in my artwork, and they make a good focal point in mixed media. I always like to have the ripped edges, so that's what I'm kind of figuring out now. All of these have to have the ripped edges. Anyway, if you want to know more about the vision board workshop, just put vision in the comments there, and you can look for the event that I'm going to be setting up later today if you want more information about joining us for the vision board workshop. And I'll show you my vision board here in a second that I finished. And you can create your own, and then you can have some creative goals and have it where you can see it. You can have fun. We're going to do it on Zoom, so it is a fun way to be able to you know, connect with some other people and ask questions. I've just decided that I want to do more Zooms this year where I actually connect, you know, in person. Well, you know, virtually in person. And get to talk with people more. So that's one of the things that I've decided to do. Okay. Get underneath there. And so once this dries, I'll cut this off, and it already has like some color, some paint from what's on this cutting board here, but I will add a little bit of color, probably with a stamp pad. So I will just take a stamp pad and kind of go over a little bit, and it will pick up all of those textures and things that I have from the little pieces of paper. And I see some straight edges there that I want to cover up a little bit. And then I will put this right here, and I will probably put the word art on there. I might just put the word art. It may be like that every week where I incorporate the word of the week on the page. It may just be a conversation, but I would love for you to come back next week and hear the B word and hear what the word is that I will have for the letter B as part of the ABCs of art. And I said I was going to show you my vision board. It has my 2 words on there. So I have rise and refresh. So these are kind of all of my goals over here. And this is me. This is me with my coffee cup here. I have the year on there. So this is, compared to my other vision boards that I've done in the past few years, it's much more focused and simplified. Much more focused and simplified. But I appreciate you showing up for the very first Art in the AM with the ABCs of Art series. And I would love for you to come back and watch next week. And I would love for you to create your own page, your own artwork based on this word, and then go post it in the Art Journaling 101 group. That's kind of my group for any time that you want to create something from the videos that I do here, that you go post it into that group. So thank you very much for being here, and hopefully I will see you back again next week for the letter B.